guys, welcome back to True Crime with Shannon, where I cover missing persons, unsolved cases, crime news, and more. Well, the verdict is in against Angela Pollina, and she is guilty on every single count. So let me play the video. It seems to be one camera they allow in the courtroom during the verdict. And it looks like CBS New York has the full feed. I'm just going to cut out a little portion between the time that the judge speaks to the attorneys and the jury comes in. So just have a slight edit there. But I'm going to play the rest of it in full. So here we go.
305, the jury has reached a unanimous decision. Both sides ready for the jury to come out?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Bring the jury out, please. Bring the alternates out first. I'm sorry.
Let the record reflect that the jury note number 4 is now Court Exhibit 7.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, the jury has reached a verdict. So obviously, you are discharged from your jury duty. We just wanted to thank you publicly for serving as alternates. As you saw early in this case, alternates became very important. That's why we kept so many. Fortunately, no one else had to leave, so we just want to thank you for staying on this case as you have. You're welcome to stay for the verdict. We've arranged to have seats available for you if you want to watch the verdict with the rest of us. You're welcome to do that, or we can have you escorted out of the building through the back. It's up to you. Okay. All right. Officer, would you put them?
Jury entering.
Case on trial, People versus Angela Pollina. All parties, including the defendant and jury, are present. Do counsel waive the roll?
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have your most recent note. The time is 3:05. It reads as follows. The jury has reached a unanimous decision. Please pay attention to the clerk.
Will the foreperson please rise? Will the defendant please rise and face the jury? How do you find the defendant, Angela Pollina, as to count 1, murder in the second degree? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
How do you find the defendant, Angela Pollina, as to count 2, endangering the welfare of a child? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
How do you find the defendant as to count 3, endangering the welfare of a child? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
How do you find the defendant as to count 4, endangering the welfare of a child? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
How do you find the defendant as to count 5, endangering the welfare of a child? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, listen to your verdict as the court records it. You say you find the defendant as to count 1, murder in the second degree, guilty. As to count 2, endangering the welfare of a child, guilty. As to count 3, endangering the welfare of a child, guilty. As to count 4, endangering the welfare of a child, guilty. As to count 5, endangering the welfare of a child, guilty. So say you all?
Yes. Yes.
Do you want the jury polled?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay.
The verdict is unanimous, Judge.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Part 7 of the Superior Criminal Court, we all want to thank you for your jury service. This is a tough case. I watched you for the last 2 weeks. I saw you paying attention to everything that was going on in this courtroom, and we all appreciate that. It was tough. I can see it in your faces. It was tough for everybody. But again, I want to thank you on behalf of the court system. Thank you for serving as jurors. I'm going to come in just a moment to speak with you before you leave in the jury room, if that's okay. And I think the alternates want to join you as well. All right? Thanks again, and we'll talk to them in just a moment. Retire the jury. What's the in court?
411.
Either side wish to be heard at this point, people?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Tui?
No, Your Honor.
All right. What's the,
April 11th, Your Honor.
for sentencing? Is that good for you?
Yes, thank you.
All right, we'll put this on for April 11th for sentencing.
So we got the verdict that Tommy and Anthony deserve. Guilty on every single count. I can only hope and pray she gets the same exact sentencing that Michael Valva did for 25 years to life. And I believe she deserves worse. But at this point, I'm hoping that at minimum she gets that sentencing. And so it looks like we're not going to get the sentencing for about a month. As they said, it's going to be on April 11th. So here's a little bit from Long Island News 12, who have also done some exceptional coverage in this case. And I wanted to play their clip. This reporter and their team have done an exceptional job, as well as Newsday, Patch. Again, I applaud all the news sources that have continued to help keep us updated throughout this trial, since we did not get cameras in the courtroom, less for some photos here and there, and for the verdict. So, and now it's starting to hit national. Go figure, huh? All right, so let's check out what News 12 has to say.
Angela Pollina guilty on all 5 counts. What can you tell us happened in the courtroom? What did you hear?
That's right. It's the second time and the second parent figure that was found guilty of killing 8-year-old Thomas Valva. Now, in the courtroom, I could tell you there were many people watching in the audience, crying as that verdict was read. Murder in the second degree. Guilty, also guilty of endangering the welfare of a child. That's 4 counts of that charge, and that is for both Thomas and Anthony Valva. They were 8 and 10 at the time of the abuse, and what we've heard throughout this trial is those 2 boys, both with autism, were forced to sleep in an unheated garage for months. The prosecution said throughout this trial that January 17th, 2020, the day that Thomas had died, was no different than any other day. And that was seen through many things, like video that we saw on January 15th. You could see both of the boys laying on their side, curled up on that cement floor of the garage, the uninsulated garage of the family's home, shaking throughout the night. Now, according to the National Weather Service, that day, 2 days before Thomas died, it was 30 degrees out, and it was 19 degrees on the day that 8-year-old Thomas Valva died. Now, Angela Pollina learned her fate just moments ago. We could not tell if she was crying or not, but she did hang her head down and had her head down as those charges were read to her in the courtroom.
Yeah, Krista, that's a vivid recap of some of the details that we all experienced in the first trial and now this trial again. And it did look like you said, you couldn't tell if she was crying or not, but it did look like there was very little emotion coming out of her there when the verdict was read.
All right, so that's a great piece, which still goes on for a few more minutes. Of course, I'll be linking it in the information for the video. But I figured I'd pause right here with the officer handcuffing Angela Pollina to take her back to jail behind bars. The only place she might be moving is to another jail at some point. But, I want to thank the jury for making sure that little Tommy got justice in this case, and his brother Anthony, of course, as well. And I want to thank the DA and her team. They did an exceptional job. I agree with Justina, rather, that it seemed to be that this was a very quick trial, but at the same time, we got the verdict that we needed. So at this point, I'm just hoping that she gets the 25 years to life sentencing on April 11th, and then we move on to the whole CPS situation. Because remember what I said when Michael got sentenced, when we found him guilty, when the jury found him guilty last year, I said, well, we have Pollina next. That's now checked off. We got justice for Tommy and both his father and his quote-unquote step monster here. But CPS is another failure in this little boy's life, in his brother's life. So that has been an investigation that was promised to Justina and to the public for way too long. So that needs to come next. And like I said, there's also a whole situation involving trafficking, which I have to look more into. But at this point, the next up is CPS. Whoever was involved in the case of the Valva boys needs to be held accountable for their actions or their inactions in this case. Why didn't they listen to little Thomas? Why did they listen to him? He told a CPS worker that he needed help. He told them what was happening at home, and they did nothing. So as far as I'm concerned, CPS is another piece of this puzzle that caused the crumbling of this little boy's life. This whole situation cost Tommy his life. And this should never have happened. And of course it began with CPS, it began with the judge, and it goes on to, obviously, through Michael. He was from the beginning with it, and we got Angela Pollina, but it's a whole cycle, it's a whole group of folks that were horrible to these children. Michael took these boys away from Justina. For what? He knew he didn't want to have those boys. I think he took them away to upset Justina. And the judge sided with him. And I'm blanking on the judge's name as I record this, but I'm going to look it up and I'm going to paste his name on the screen right here. Because he needs to be held accountable as much as CPS in this situation. He gave custody of those boys to Michael. But alright guys, I'm so glad that we're ending the week with another win for justice for a sweet young child named Thomas Valva. And I will keep you guys apprised of what's coming forward on this one. Like I said, I'm not giving up on the CPS portion of this case, and I'm hoping to get to speak with some folks in the upcoming weeks. So stay tuned for that, and I appreciate every single one of you for following the coverage on this on the channel. And I'm going to also post again that link to put cameras in the New York courts. We should not be banned from seeing that. There should be a camera just like this throughout the trial that we can watch. There's no reason that we can't. All right, guys, I hope you have a great rest of the day and a great weekend. And most of all, stay safe.